My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, do we have some more things to talk about when it comes to the sport of boxing? Nick Khan, WWE president and board member of TKO Group Holdings, who owns 40% of Zuffa Boxing, the other 60% is owned by Sella, 100% paid for by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. Nick Khan, the TKO Group Holdings, don't pay a single dime out of their pockets. Nick Khan represented today Zuffa Boxing in regards to getting the Muhammad Ali American Revival Act being passed, going against Oscar De La Hoya and Nico Ali Wash, the grandson of Muhammad Ali. Oscar De La Hoya and Nick Khan both made some great points. And I want to get to both of their points that they made, give you guys my opinion on it. But I just want to first talk about a UBO and what this means in the sport of boxing and why it's important for us boxing hardcores to know about. A unified boxing organization is on the verge of being created. Today was the first hearing in front of the Senate. If it eventually ends up getting passed, a UBO will be created. Zuffa Boxing, a unified boxing organization, which means there's a lot of questions in the air right now. We know the IBF definitely is not complying with any of their world champions fighting for a Zuffa world title. They stripped Jaya Pattaya. We've seen that with an instant. Richardson Hitchens, who just got signed over to Zuffa Boxing, vacated his IBF bout. He knows what the deal is. I mean, they don't even have a 140-pound weight class in Zuffa Boxing. The sanctioning bodies will not work with any fighter, whether or not you are a champion or not a champion. If you're Devin Haney, who's the WBO welterweight champion, reports and rumors of him being signed over to Zuffa Boxing, decides to go with Zuffa Boxing, and they are a UBO right now, the bout is actually just a trophy. It's nothing. But once they're a unified boxing organization through law, through federal law, it'll officially be its own entity, which means it is not involved through the sanctioning bodies. They are working through a completely different ranking system, right? Zuffa Boxing, Dana White and these guys act as their own promoters, their own sanctioning body, and their own ranking system all in one. The exact same thing as the UFC, okay? So once a UBO is created, if you're, I explained Devin Haney, let's just say you're Brian Norman Jr., and you're looking, to continue to work yourself back up to a world title. If you're Brian Norman Jr. and decide to get signed over to Zuffa Boxing and you participate in a Zuffa Boxing event that is not sanctioned by the WBO, guess what? You will be removed from the rankings just like that, ladies and gentlemen. Because you are no longer fighting under the sanctioning bodies. You decided to sign under a UBO, a unified boxing organization. So once this is created, you will have your answer. These boxers who, are like still wondering if the sanctioning bodies will comply with anybody who's in Zuffa Boxing. You had David Benavidez who said, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever down to fight Jaya Pattaya because he's in Zuffa Boxing and I don't know if we'll ever be able to fight because I fight under the sanctioning bodies, right? I hold WBC straps. I mean, you think they're going to comply with me? You think Mauricio Sullivan is going to want to comply with this? We will officially have our answers, even though we already have an idea of it. Once this UBO is created, consider it done. Devin Haney, anybody who's thinking about fighting under the sanctioning bodies and still being ranked under the sanctioning bodies cannot fight for Zuffa Boxing. It doesn't even matter if you're a non-champion. How we explained with Conor Benn. Conor Benn, who's rated #1 by the WBC in the welterweight rankings. Conor Benn, if this UBO is created and he's fighting under the UBO with Zuffa Boxing, they're going to drop him from the rankings, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to drop him. Why would they keep him? Why? He's fighting under a UBO. Things are definitely gonna get tricky. Especially when Turki Al-Sheikh decides to come in and wants to set up a fight with somebody who's fighting under the UBO and tries to fight somebody under the sanctioning body who's a world champion. Are the sanctioning bodies even going to comply as Zuffa becomes a UBO? I don't think so. I really don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. Now, as for the debate in trying to get the Muhammad Ali Revival Act passed, both guys, WWE president, board member Nick Khan of TKO Group Holdings, who owns 40% of Zuffa Boxing, going up against Oscar De La Hoya, representing the Muhammad Ali Act, and Nico Ali Wallace, the grandson of Muhammad Ali, also made a great argument. Nick Khan bringing up the fact that there's 18 different weight divisions and there's 163 world champions, which, yes, is really, really bad for the sport. Let's be real. For casual fans looking within, my goodness. I grew up with my family getting together not for basketball games, not for the Super Bowl, not for the NFL, not for soccer, but for boxing fights. And now nobody gets together. All those same people who were in love with the sport of boxing back in the days have slowly lost their love for it. Why? Boxing politics, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Khan makes a great point when he talks about the sanctioning bodies and why there's 160 world champions and only 18 weight divisions, and you know how they're charging every single world champion a percentage of their money to be able to hold their bouts. Brings up the insurance plans, talking about, you know, it's not going to be like how the sport of boxing is right now, where they got some cheap medical plan or the day of the fight, they're covered. No. Here at Zuffa Boxing, 8 weeks leading up to your training camp, you will be guaranteed $50,000 if legally now, a legal injury happens. You will be covered even if it's 6 weeks prior to the fight. 6 weeks prior to the fight, you get an injury, you have an insurance installed just in case, because there's some fighters that got to pay for expenses, paid for a lot of things. The fight doesn't end up going through, well, at least they have some type of back-end pay. Brings up a lot of different takes, you know, the old school 1980s boxing, compares it to right now, talks about, you know, every single thing that they want to do and why it's great for the fighters, you know, why creating a UBO and fighting under Zuffa Boxing is going to help the sport of boxing. Oscar De La Hoya made some great points as well, talking about the current space of UFC. And this is coming not just from me, a boxing hardcorist, but UFC fans themselves. Currently don't like the way UFC is being ran. It has been corrupted, even though they speak about having this track record of the best fighting the best, this and that. It has been corrupted with several different things. First of all, they only pay 20 to 30% of their fighters total revenue generated. When you got the NFL, NBA, all these other leagues, boxing, who are paying far, far, far more than that. He brought up the $375 million lawsuit that's going against the UFC. He brought up the fact that, you know, UFC fighters themselves are coming out. Sugar Sean O'Malley complaining about how much they're getting paid compared to the Zuffa boxers who are being signed over to Zuffa. Even though Zuffa isn't being paid by Dana White and TKO Group Holdings, is being paid by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, Insella and Turki Al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia, those people. Oscar De La Hoya did a great job of just bringing all the problems that are involved in the world of UFC right now into what could potentially happen with Zuffa Boxing. And there's, you know, he's right on a couple things as well. We can't sit here and lie, is that even though the UFC claims to have this perfect structure, the other corruptions in the structure is, yes, Dana White and these guys have power and say so in who fights who. They pick everybody's fight. They choose what you get to wear. You have no option, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't want to fight this fight, guess what? They'll let you sit out. If you're ranked number 1 in a certain division for a year, 2 years, Musvar Evloev, a fighter who deserved a title shot, wow, and he still hasn't got one yet. Still hasn't got one. Arman Tsutsukian, a guy who pulled out of his fight against Islam Makhachev hours before the event because of back pain. The dude got absolutely punished. Dana White and them didn't believe him. So Nick Khan talks about the $50,000 insurance. Well, guess what? If you're pulling out of fights because of injuries, it's not looking good. And the things that they don't tell you is that if you pull out of 2 fights because of injuries, 3 fights, and you lose, you're 1-2 in the UFC, there's a big chance that you will be released if you're in Zuffa boxing, because that's what they do in UFC. You could be on a win streak, 6-0. You could be on a win streak in the UFC and be released, right? So in Zuffa boxing, if you're not an exciting fighter, you're sticking behind the jab, you're not putting on exciting fights, you're not generating clout like some of these UFC fighters who have win streaks but still get released, does that mean they're going to get released? It's very possible, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of great things about the UFC, but on the lower end, some of these dudes, you know, I spoke to Hamdi Abdul Wahab, who, yes, failed 2 drug tests in the UFC. Horrible dude. You know, just trying to cheat, man. Let's be real. Hamdi Abdul Wahab told me his first fight, he fought for 12-12. $12,000 if I win. And, you know, the dude only fought, what, 4 or 5 times in the UFC? Only, you know, made less than, what, 200, 300 grand? And that was his career. That was it. Some of these guys have so short of a career, and the second that they leave the UFC, there's not this other avenue for them to go to because the way the sport is monopolized. It gets rough, man. And look it, if you're a fighter who decides to sign over to Zuffa Boxing, goes 0-3, gets released after your first contract, now you're looking to fight under a sanctioning body, well, guess what? You're on a losing streak. You think these sanctioning bodies, you think these promoters, Oscar De La Hoya, Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, Al Heyman, Bob Arum, do you think these guys are going to want to invest in you after you've been on this losing streak and you weren't fighting under the sanctioning bodies, chose to be compliant with the UBO and Zuffa Boxing? Hey, bro. Hey. So, although Nick Khan made some great arguments, and I support Zuffa Boxing being created, I do see the end results of Zuffa playing out almost kind of like the UFC, unless they're able to continue to pay some of these fighters great money. But let me know what you guys think, man. Oscar De La Hoya made his case. Nick Khan made his case. Both of them made some absolutely great arguments. It seems like because of the connections that Dana White has with Donald Trump and, you know, everybody, Paramount Plus, all these guys, Nick Khan, TKO Group Holdings, every one of these dudes is just connected too well to be able to lose this battle, man. Even though Oscar De La Hoya and Nico Aliwash did what they could, I don't think the delivery from Oscar De La Hoya was that great, but it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you guys think. This is the MMA Boxing Addict channel reporting to you.